What's up everybody, welcome to Inside the Game, your one source for everything cool in video games. If you want to be a part of our show, then head to insidethegame.ca where there you can submit your clip and a whole lot more. You can also join our Discord and our YouTube channel. All the links are there ready for you. Now we got a jam-packed episode this week. I learned the way of the samurai, Scott gets his dance party on, and the guys and I get ready to rumble in Worms. But first, here's the inside scoop.
Since its full unveiling at E3 2019, Crystal Dynamics' Marvel Avengers game is being teased that we're going to be getting a beta coming up finally, and we're getting some dates. So if you've pre-ordered the game on PlayStation, you're going to be able to access the beta on August 7th. And if you've pre-ordered on Xbox or PlayStation, you're going to be able to access that on the 14th. And on the 14th as well, we're going to be getting the PlayStation Open Beta. And then on the 21st of August, we're going to be getting the Open Beta for everybody. And Crystal Dynamics has said that they're going to be teasing just a few different game modes in this to kind of give everybody a feel for what the full game's going to be like. We're going to get some campaign missions, some co-op. We're giving a couple different game modes that they're actually going to be talking about at a War Table presentation on July 29th. So make sure you tune into that one to get a few more details about what we're going to be able to jump into here, because I think this one's going to be awesome. There's a few screen grabs and a couple quick videos, so let's check them out.
You struggle against the unstoppable tide of progress, Avengers. Power cannot be controlled. It has to be destroyed. I will rid the Earth of supers, even if it has to end with me.
It's just got a whole lot weirder.
We all know how video games are massive and important to a lot of us, but they also generate a ton of money. But taking up part of this market is the mobile gaming side of it as well. And I've got some numbers that might just surprise you. Coming in as one of the biggest top dogs of the gaming space is none other than PUBG Mobile, bringing in the last 7 months $3 billion. Those are some staggering figures and a lot of cash. But there are also some others that do follow up with the gaming side as well, and let's get into some of those facts. PUBG Mobile comes from a combined player spending of Game for Peace, the title's Chinese localization, and the global revenue of PUBG Mobile. In 2020 alone, the two games have accumulated $1.3 billion in revenue, peaking at $270 million alone in March. The global spending of PUBG Mobile is 4 times greater than any other major mobile shooter. Free Fire, Knives Out, and none other than Call of Duty Mobile. Call of Duty Mobile only brought in $222 million, with Knives Out bringing in $260 million. Those are huge numbers, and the top dog winner, none other than PUBG Mobile, one of my standout mobile games, kind of a go-to in this household. So if you haven't checked it out yet, maybe it's time. There's obviously a lot of players and a lot of people spending money.
Last Oasis is a pretty big MMO starting up in early access on PC on Steam. Now, we've checked it out a couple times for the show, but we're really interested in this game to see how it develops. For those that don't know, Last Oasis is a game that tasks you with survival in a pretty harsh, pretty desert world, and you hoard resources to establish walkers. And you use these walkers to establish more resources and grow your territory from there. Now, this new update, the Volcanic Update Part 2, is set to go live, and it will bring new items into the world, such as walker modules that will help you manipulate and then defend against lava fuel, a new damage source, a new kind of thing to work with within the game. There will also be some personal items such as a gas mask and headgear kind of things to help you mitigate some damage in these new elements going off. We're excited to see how Lost Oasis works out. Jump on in and check it out with us next time.
We got a pretty cool one here today. Lego is actually releasing a Nintendo Entertainment System. That's right, the classic console from 1985 is now going to be a buildable Lego playset. And on top of that, you're actually also getting a 1980 Retros buildable Lego TV that has a side-scrolling Mario 2D game on it. That's right, let's check this thing out. This 2,646-piece LEGO Nintendo Entertainment System will be released on August 1st, 2020 for $229 USD and also includes a controller with a connecting cable and plug, and even an opening slot for the Super Mario Bros. Cartridge that has a locking feature to keep it in place in the LEGO console. The TV has a crank that can be used to scroll the screen to move the 8-bit Mario through the level.
There has been a ton of events lately. UB Forward, Xbox, PlayStation. Xbox is coming back with another one here shortly to give us more information on the Xbox Series X. But the latest is the Stadia Connect. And I have your recap. Stadia Connect has been one of those things you look forward to, but you're a little sketchy as to what you're going to get. And there were a few highlights, but not a lot of things in the 18 minutes that it held for to really go over. They've got games coming, but we don't know what is actually coming. Supermassive is bringing an exclusive. Who knows what it is because they never talked about it. Then they did that often throughout the Connect as well. There's teams that are coming and they're bringing games, but we just don't have enough information as to what they are. And it's a little disappointing. We know Harmonix is coming, but you still don't have much information on that as well. But what we do know is that Hitman Trilogy is coming, not until January 2021, unfortunately. But we do have Orcs Must Die 3, which is available right now for Stadia Pro users. I grabbed it. It's a blast. And they announced that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is coming as well. But the big focus over on the event was the click-to-play feature. This ability that they've talked about in the previous, before even launching the Stadia, was the ability to go in as you're watching your favorite streamer, click on the link of the game, and it instantly jump into the game, whether that be with the streamer or just on your own to play. But that was something that they did push a lot throughout the event. And honestly, that's about it. There wasn't really too much to go on over the 18 minutes, but I'm still looking forward to jumping on my Stadia every now and then, especially now that Orcs Must Die 3 is available.
Superhot is a smash success first-person shooter selling more than 2 million copies on every console and PC combined. Now, this is a super giant game. You can play through it multiple times over in a different challenge mode, but it has somewhat gotten stale since its release many years ago. The developers have noticed this and they are wanting to reward players with the Mind Control Delete expansion pass. Now, this is a new take on the game that will put you through several different challenge modes, and it introduces a lot of new elements to the game. You take on different controlled characters, the enemies become different and stronger, and it gives you a lot more of that cryptic storyline that really enticed me into that title. Now here's the best part. This update expansion is absolutely free if you own the game. So check out Superhot once again.
So Scott, this week we're jumping into the Neon Abyss. Scott, this week we got to check out a pretty cool game, an action roguelike platformer, Neon Abyss. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, this one's kind of similar to a few that I've played in the past. Not related to the show, but it's a lot like Binding of Isaac, where you go through a bunch of levels that are randomly generated. When you die, everything gets reset, and you can pick up a bunch of different items to change your character through the play. And that's where it really gets mixed up. What was your first impression of this one?
Well, you know what? I really like the art style. I'm a big on the art style, the graphics. I love the pixel art. I think they did a really good job with this. I like the way the characters look. The environment itself, it really does fit this neon abyss, right? It's kind of like this dingy nightclub, underground kind of vibe that you get while you're playing this. And they really bring it out in the way this one looks. But when you first get into it, I like the way the kind of the hub world's laid out for you. It's very kind of basic, but at the same time kind of intricate in its own way. It's very easy to find where you can change your difficulty levels for the game. It's kind of just mounted up on the wall. There's a bar area where you can do some upgrading as you kind of go through this game. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit later. There's a dance floor, which I was kind of surprised to see. You can kind of bust a move out there if you really want to. There's a quick little character selection area, and then there's and the next area I thought was kind of cool. So when you get into this and you start playing through these dungeons, when you die, you have to restart. But the neat thing is every run you do gets a specific kind of, key code that you can input to jump back in and do that run over again. But what we were talking about, Scott, is that there's actually kind of a downside to this cool little mechanic.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you take a friend's seed code to their world and you activate it in your world, it turns off achievements and unlockables, and I'm not sure exactly why they would want to do that, because other than the memory game, I guess, of going through something again, I guess it's some sort of exploit that people might use to cheese the achievements, I guess. But that's just the downside. There's a lot of cool things you can do in that hub world. We've seen bars before already, but it's cool that you can change your character as well. There's a lot of different characters that you unlock in different ways throughout the game. One is by spending those tokens at the bar. In parts that you unlock later on, you get one of the characters. They each have their own abilities and something that makes them unique. And that's cool to freshen up a game that you're supposed to just run through again and again.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. It is that true run and gun style game, and it's kind of your heart racing the entire time you're playing this. I mean, there's enemies coming at you from everywhere, and I played a little bit on actually each difficulty level just because I was interested to see how it differs, and it's more just basically you're going to run into more enemies per room, and the aggression level of the enemies is going to be a little bit higher. So, I mean, even on easy, this game isn't totally easy because every run is unique. You pick up different items, different weapons every time you go into a different room. The weapons in this game, I don't know about you, there's some pretty cool ones. Like, I'm shooting heart boomerangs, and stars are flying everywhere, and laser beams. Like, they've got a little bit of everything. It reminds me of like a 2D Ratchet and Clank style with all these different types of weapons in this.
Yeah, that's a good way of explaining it, and it's so randomized, seemingly, that the different effects of the items you pick up, that even those guns can be tweaked kind of in different ways in different playthroughs, and they behave a lot differently. I didn't really have a hard time with the difficulty, personally, until the very, very last fight in the first round of things. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but you're supposed to go through 5 different levels. And then on the 5th one, you face a kind of overboss, and that overboss presents quite a difficult challenge because it doesn't seem to matter what pieces you get, what items you equip. It's going to be difficult. He hits hard no matter what. And I found in a lot of the earlier levels, I would get something like demon wings or the ability to fly, and that would just, I would almost be able to just walk all over these other early bosses. But once you beat the main overboss, it goes on even further. The game gets even bigger. It turns into a 7-round playthrough before you get to an overboss, and from there it just goes up and up and up. And this game has a lot of replayable value. So the thing with Neon Abyss is that it's kind of similar to a lot of the games in the genre. It's very much similar to Binding of Isaac by name, and that one has a very specific theme in mind. This one also has a very specific theme in mind. It's quite different with the neon colors and the kind of degraded society cyber look to it.
Yeah.
And the chibi characters was really quite unique, but there's a lot of these similarities where you can kind of, spend some health to get more powerful. You can change some of the chests and some of the doors in the field to be like a negative effect and kind of hurt yourself that way. So there's a strategy going about how you deal with the things in the levels as they're randomly generated. That's a very straight out of the Binding of Isaac book. But that's a great thing about it, is that it takes that and it gives it its own coat of paint. All these weird, wacky guns that you would never find in a game as serious as Isaac, and it just has its own unique, little twists. Instead of pets that follow you, there's the eggs, and that's got to be the best system of all.
It's, yeah, it's so cool. Like you said, there's these eggs you pick up as you go through these dungeon levels, and they kind of just float behind you for a period of time. As you defeat enemies, you kind of gain this experience that unlocks them. Well, the ability to unlock them, because sometimes you fail to hatch something. It does not always get something out of the egg, but if you do, it tends to be a little sidekick or some sort of item that will follow you and aid you in some sort of way. And there's so many different little characters, and they level up as you go through. So, I mean, at one point, Scott, I think I had 7 or 8 behind me, and I've seen people with, 9, 10, 11. It's just a whole tale of these things, and, they're all hatched, and there's all different kinds. There's a bunch I probably haven't even seen yet, and I feel like I've seen a bunch already. So there are all these unique little characters that kind of just help you as you go through. Some of them will give you shields, some of them will block bullets, some of them will just attack enemies. I kind of thought it was funny because I got this little Donald Trump one, or Donald Trump looking one, and he's called the Grabber, and he picks up all the money. If you go buy money, he'll grab it all, and it's just stuff like that. You know what I mean? It makes it so, it's just that humor that kind of brings it out, but at the same time, this is a serious game. The action is intense, and it doesn't stop when you go from room to room. I mean, you'll get those checkpoint rooms that give you a little bit of a breather, but when you enter a room, you don't know exactly what's going to spawn or what you're going to run into, so you're just hoping that, your sidekicks you got and the weapons you have and the items you have are going to be what's going to carry you onto those boss levels and beyond. But man, this one's a grind. This one's a grind. All right, Scott, I think we've had a pretty good time playing Neon Abyss. If you got to put a score on this, what are you gonna give it?
Yeah, this one's interesting. It's similar to a lot in the genre, but it has its own unique twists that have me hooked. I'm playing this one again and again. It just has that replay value. I'm there with an 8.5. I enjoyed this one.
You know what? I'm right there with you. I feel the exact same way. The art style is what drew me in immediately, and just the non-stop action. And like you said, the replayability is just, it's there. And you can jump in, you can do a quick run. If you die, you don't have to play another one. But if you want to play 10 more, you can. And that's what makes this game so great. So you know what? I'm right there with you with an 8.5. With countless weapon and item combinations and randomly generated dungeons, you'll find yourself wanting to jump back into the abyss.
It's time I learn the way of the samurai.
I swore to protect this island with my life, never once betraying my code. Until today.
Before jumping into this review, a big shout out and a thanks to PlayStation for sending us the code of Ghost of Tsushima. And my time with Ghost of Tsushima has been an exciting trip. There's no doubt about it. Playing as this new IP Jin and this character that he enrolls and makes it so believable as we experience such a story of trust and belief and understanding of his own way and his meaning and his purpose of life. And all this is kind of wrapped into an intertwined story that is overall simple. Simple in the fact that the Mongols have taken over your island of Tsushima and you're just there to get it back. And you're gonna do it at any cost. And at any cost is starting to cost a few other things that weren't really expected when Jin first set out to get his island back. Family members are involved in a backstory, and there's just so much wrapped up into this hours upon hours of gameplay. Like, I mean, Act 1 took me over 20 hours to complete, but it was worth it. The biggest thing about the game is the fact that you set out in one direction, and just like any other open world, you get caught up doing every other thing but that one direction you were set off to in the first place. But if you can maintain your time with the story, that's when you start to unravel what's really going on. And though Khan is this monstrous beast of a being, and I thought he was really well acted too. He is there, he's this big brute, this force that is there for a purpose. But when you find these little notes that are scattered throughout the island of Tsushima, you then encounter a backstory of Khan and why he's there and his purpose, and you kind of get this understanding of, man, you know what, this guy actually makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, he is the bad guy. There's no doubt about it. But you get this backstory on him, and I thought that was really cool. Within the world itself, the world is so, man, it is beautiful. This game is so gorgeous. Set over in Japan with all the petals, and you can go in and completely customize how everything looks. If you want to have all of it done with Japanese voiceovers, you can do that. You want to play the entire game in black and gray, you can do that. There's so many options, and a lot more options than I've ever seen in a video game before. But when you go into photo mode, and I found myself honestly going to photo mode a lot, because you get this sea of petals, and then you get the rays coming in through the sun and the way they intertwine with the trees, and then you find yourself lost in this setting. And then I'm there for about 15-20 minutes just messing around with photo mode and playing with Jin's expressions, and like there's just so much to do. And that's one of the best parts about the game. The story is there, the story is awesome, right? There's no doubt about how good the story really is, and the character that Jin is as well. Everything there is done so well. The voice acting is really good. I lost myself in the game. It is that simple.
You are warriors. We can defeat the invaders and save our home, but only if we stand together.
Once you're done the actual campaign, that's really just the beginning, because there is so much more at your fingertips to go out and explore, grab collectibles, keep working on your upgrades, and it's the way of the samurai and how many things you can put into your disposal, or the way of the ghost. Anything from stances to new techniques, weapons, there's so much to do, and the stances I find are a big part of the game. How you face off against your enemy is how well you're able to pick the right stance and then counter and attack. And the way you face the brutes, you're going to want to use the one stance, and then if you face the swords, like there's so many different techniques that you can pull off within the game. It is one of the coolest parts of Ghost of Tsushima that keeps me going back, trying to get into the battles. And whether you want to go in sneaky like a ghost, like I prefer to, or sometimes you just have no other way and you just call them out and you face them head on. And that's the way of the samurai, is that Jin has this moral way of the samurai and his beliefs, and the samurai are up front. They aren't playing sneaky. They don't do anything behind the scenes. They look the person in the eye when they kill them, that kind of scenario, right? But as Jin plays and has to revert to these ghost kind of techniques, you feel the pressure that he starts to encounter on himself, and the fact that this isn't the way of the samurai. He's being sneaky because he doesn't have a choice, and you want to be able to kind of work out which angle you want to go, and it gives you the option. You can be up front, but then you're going to encounter everybody that's there. But if you want to be sneaky, then you have that opportunity to take out individual bad guys at once, or combo with some of the other techniques as you grow your tree of repertoire with the RPG system and are able to take out multiple enemies, and then you're dropping smoke bombs, and then you're throwing little mini knives at slowing guys down. Like, it's just, man, what a great game coming out of Sucker Punch. As much as I've had a great time with the game, it exactly hasn't been perfect either. It does have minor setbacks, jumping from tree branch to tree branch or grabbing from one limb to the next. It feels a little cumbersome at times. When you're used to playing Assassin's Creed, where you can jump on literally anything and climb whatever you feel like, and then coming over to Ghost of Tsushima, it kind of feels like a step back in the fact that you have to find ledges, and then those jumping from ledge to ledge is sometimes a little awkward and doesn't really flow. Even though you're supposed to just be able to push up on the analog stick and jump from one platform to the next, sometimes it doesn't do that. And then when you jump from one tree branch to another, you don't exactly line up at those perfect times either. Overall though, my time has been great, but just with a few minor setbacks. Well, I think I've learned the ways of the samurai and the ghost. Ghost of Tsushima has been one of the best highlights of the year so far on the PlayStation, and I think it's a good way to wrap up the year for PlayStation as well. All in all, I think Sucker Punch has definitely achieved their goal and set out to achieve a new IP with a lot of purpose and meaning behind it. And you're able to see that on both sides, whether you want to play the ghost side or the way of the samurai, it's all there. And my time with Ghost of Tsushima has been an absolute blast and is getting a 9.5. Jin is a great new character that brings life to the story and the weapons he wields. Sucker Punch has a new IP on their hands, and we can't wait for more.
What even is Ooblets? Well, I took an early look at a game-in-game preview on the Xbox. This one's called Ooblets, and what is that? That's a strange question to answer. It's a combination of a couple different genres, and some really standout games that we're kind of more familiar with. Let me preface this by saying I haven't played a lot of Animal Crossing. Just a little bit of the new one, just to kind of take a peek at it, but I'm not really familiar with what the normal staples of that series are. So understand that when I'm talking about this game. This game has a huge influence of that, and I want to say a Harvest Moon kind of objective to the overall game. But stitched in with that is a kind of Pokemon-esque dance off with these creatures that you're growing. It's super strange, and the whole game definitely plays towards that cutesy, strange, really weird angle. This one is kind of looks in the style of like a Katamari game. It has a lot of cel shading to it, and it really stands out to the eye. It has a lot of pastel colors, and it makes a really bright, vibrant, nice looking, almost Nintendo-esque world, if that makes sense. It's similar a lot of ways to Animal Crossing in that you walk through a village and you talk to a lot of different people in the town. You can have the opportunity to join several different clubs based on your kind of personality, and that determines what your starter Oob is, the Pokemon type creature in this world. Now, the Pokemon vibe is definitely strong running through this entire game. You enter these dance-off, and that's kind of where the battle system differs. But it's your Oob versus an Oob, usually a wild one, or perhaps somebody else's. But you get into these kind of turn after turn battles where I have the opportunity to respond to what you're doing with a series of cards. These cards are drawn at random at the beginning of every turn, so there's no value in holding on to the cards. You want to kind of maybe burn them as fast as possible in these beats that happen per turn. Now, the beats are somewhat maybe determined on the level of the oobs, or determined on the amount of oobs, because you can have up to 3, I believe, in a battle at one time. That's at least where I'm at, where I'm collecting a lot of these things, and they're following me around in a team just like Pokemon. But in this dance-off style thing, everybody just kind of comes up, and you have a lot of generic cards, but each of these oobs brings a specific card to the combat. It's a really interesting, unique combat system that kind of has its own fun with the hype elements to it and its own kind of workings going off. It's a unique breath of a kind of fighter game where it's not like Pokemon where, you know, you're kind of worried about different moves going off in whatever order. This one's a lot more simpler and a lot toned down. I think the idea here is to more so grow your archive of these oobs, and you do that by growing them in your own garden. That's where the Harvest Moon aspect takes in. It's kind of this blend of, I'll go train up these oobs, just like Pokemon, I'll fight a couple, they drop a seed of their type when they are defeated, and then you can take that seed, plant it in your garden, and so on and so forth. You get several of these seeds together, and that might unlock the ability to fight a different type of oob that you're finding kind of wandering through town. These oobs are not really hostile. They're all really friendly, and it's a nice dance battle beat to a world that's really charming, and the soundtrack accompanies that pretty nicely. It's these nice tunes of very Animal Crossing type Harvest Moon, you know, relaxing stuff that's going on. And they generally match the day and night cycle of what's happening. You have so much energy, just like Harvest Moon, where you can only do so many actions throughout the day, and you have to eat to restore your energy and continue on going, or have a nap, and eventually just sleep overnight, where it does this really interesting recap thing where it brings up a bunch of the information of what you did in that day, and it kind of rewards you in letting you see the kind of gradual progress happening to your characters. This game is only in game preview, but that's such a surprise because there's a lot of aspects to this that I haven't even really touched on. There's decorating your house, there's interacting with all these people and fixing stuff up in town. It seems to be a lot of the long-term things that you can do to keep this game going and freshen it. There's upgrades early on that introduce new kinds of oobs to town. There's a balloon that eventually you fix and are able to leave town and go to other places. This game really seems like it's just the tip of the iceberg here, and this could be a really good hit. I enjoyed this blend of games, and I'm absolutely going to recommend that you check this one out, Ooblets, on the Xbox. An absolutely awesome blend of casual fun staples. Definitely check this one out.
So this week's mobile mention's more like a mobile update. We're jumping back into SkyWeaver from Horizon, the trading card game that's in beta testing right now. And let me tell you, it's getting a ton of updates. So you know what? Let's get right into it. SkyWeaver's seen some really positive UI changes since launch. We've been getting a really nice laid out library now displaying all the cards we currently own and cards that we can be looking at buying in the store, which is really awesome. See the rankings of the leaderboards, you can go through all the different tiers, kind of see who's at the top, who's at the bottom. Best part is, though, what I like to see is we've got a new game mode, private game mode, which lets you play against your friends and earn XP all the way up to level 15, which isn't something we were able to do before, which is a really nice feature, because in these deck building games it does take a little bit of playtime before you realize, you know, what works and what doesn't. So having a game mode like private in there is really nice to see. We're also getting a casual mode coming in soon, which is really nice, and in the competitive mode under discovery you actually get to select your heroes now and pick the decks that they use, which is usually a combination of two different skill sets, which I think is super awesome. It really lets you tailor your playstyle. And I think my favorite feature added overall is actually in-game. We are getting a turn tracker on the left-hand side that we can reveal or hide as we wish, and it allows us to select any card that's been played throughout the match, and it'll show the damage that it's dealt, and it'll give you all the information about the card. So if there's a card that gets used against you that you want, you can at least check it out and see which one you can go look for in the store, or possibly trade with somebody else to get. But honestly, this is probably the best feature that's been added in this game in launch for me personally, because it just gives out so much information, and the ability to hide it while you're playing is also a really nice feature. As the updates keep rolling in for SkyWeaver, we're going to keep you updated on this game as some of the bigger changes come through, because let me tell you, they've done a ton up to this point and they're not going to stop. And if you're interested in jumping in and checking this one out, make sure you head over to skyweaver.net and make sure you get your beta access in over there.
Alright, so here we are with the Rainbow Six Siege Canadian Division Game Day 3 coverage. And I'm going to be giving you the lower bracket tier game footage, because these two teams already lost in the previous two games, and now we're kind of dueling it out for bragging rights and for a higher prize pool. The two teams that are dueling it out today are Livid and Nordic Esports. Both teams are actually really good and have a lot of potential, but they do have some room for growth. And today you can really see what team has grown from its last game, whereas the other one still has some room for improvements. This matchup was actually decided in 2 maps, the first time this has actually happened yet, and Nordic Esports really just came out on top. A 6-3 victory on Villa was astonishing, because they actually lost their last match playing on Villa. So it was a little bit surprising to see them actually pick it, but you know what? It really turned out to be in their favor. The second match was Consulate. Now this, wow, it was a 6-1 victory for Nordic Esports. Livid Gaming, they kind of just looked like they gave up partway through, unfortunately. And Nordic, they just made all the right moves and everything kind of just worked out in their favor. With Nordic Esports progressing to the next round, we had to see how Mirage and Altiora duel it out in the next match. I think that Nordic Esports is actually really going to put up a fight against whoever loses in that match. So stay tuned for the Game Day 4's coverage. Alright, Chimu, we're saving souls from the void in this one. Alright, Scott, so we got our hands on an interesting title, Towaga Among Shadows. This kind of stationary, mostly, point and defend style game, dude. So what did you think of this?
Yeah, this one's an interesting concept for a game, and it seems really simple on the surface, but kind of gets deeper the further you get into it. Yeah, you're a character that largely just stands in place, and you have a big beam of light, and you use that to cleanse the shadows from the land that you're kind of moving throughout the story. It kind of has some light action where a lot of things rush your point, and you just have to defend yourself using either the left click light beam attack or the right click, which is a spell that you pick up and kind of collect through the story. It was really kind of cool. What did you think of this one?
Man, I actually had a good time with this for how simple it for how simple it actually is. I love how much depth there kind of is within the spells. There are about 6 different spells that you learn throughout the story, each of them actually kind of being different. Nothing too crazy, the first spell you start off with is just a huge repel ability that destroys everything around you, and then a couple other ones is like the frost beam and such. So there is some cool depth, and you can actually upgrade this along with your character. So with your character, you can actually upgrade your health, your beam size, the amount of mana points you have, and such. So it's actually kind of fun.
Yeah, they have a layer of depth that you spend your souls that you're collecting when you crush these enemies, and it gives you something to work towards in the timeline of the story. The story is told to you kind of between these phases, and these phases are really quick, I'd have to say. I think there's 42 in part 1, and there's like another 42 in part 2. Part 3 is unavailable at the moment, but this game has so much in it that these short little phases kind of take you on this adventure, and it goes through this world where you're cleansing these shrines, and it's told with kind of these characters that kind of haggle you along the way. It has its own charm to it, that's for sure, and I really appreciated the way that the characters played themselves out. They don't exactly have voice acting, but they kind of have like their own little kind of voice that comes out.
Yeah, and their own personality definitely within the dialogue. And honestly, the character design I thought was pretty good, man. Every handful of waves, or even every couple, they throw a new kind of creature at you, or even a boss fight or a mini boss fight. So they actually, they're constantly kind of throwing new stuff at you throughout the entire experience.
Yeah, well, and you also unlock these other modes of play. So you get the Sky version where you actually do have movement abilities, where you can use the WASD controls to, move your character around in this box in the sky while you're fending off.
But you are limited to not using your spells when you're in the flying mode, which I thought was a little weird. But you're right.
Well, then when you unlock it, actually separate of that, you get the ability, you can actually use your spells, I believe, and then in that mode where you're kind of in a leaderboard scenario with other players across the internet, and we're pretty highly ranked up there at the moment, but there's actually that mode and a survival mode, which is, the similar, you just stand on the top of a temple and fend off waves, but again, it has that leaderboard capability with it. It's a simple game, but there's kind of a lot in the small, layers to it. That this game kind of has a lot to bring you back in to keep playing over and over again for small sessions. So one thing that I noticed that was kind of really lacking in this game was a soundtrack. There wasn't a lot of really intense music, and I kind of did my own substitution with some heavy metal, and it actually made the game way more intense. I would definitely recommend that in further updates, perhaps, with that part 3. But that was just one thing that I noticed was kind of lacking. The other gripe I have with this game is that the controls aren't locked to the window that I was in. At least in my configuration, the game was kind of taking place, and if my mouse drifted out of the game square, that would interact with my recording software, all kinds of things, because I wasn't locked in. And it made aiming the beam at times kind of really cumbersome, especially when I can't see my cursor. So I have a little bit of some issue with the control, but it's something that you get used to as you play the game, and it comes, to be less of an issue. A simple concept going on that is actually surprisingly gratifying, but we just kind of wish there was a little bit more to it. If you're gonna give this one a score, what would you say?
Well, man, for how simple this is, but with the amount of depth that it also brings, I'm gonna have to give this one a 7, man. I had quite a bit of fun. The characters that they bring are pretty funny and comical, and they actually, you actually get to learn more about them as you beat them in the actual storyline. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a nice progression to this game that makes it even more gratifying, even though it's kind of just an easy game. But I'm right there with you with a 7. A great but simple concept. We really wish there was more to this game.
Nate, we're gonna start crawling with this one, or maybe even stop.
Yeah.
Nate, a while back you and I checked out a game called Dead Age. Well, we're back again with Dead Age 2. This time it is basically, it felt really similar, but we're in early access with Dead Age 2, and we were able to check out a little bit of the game because you and I were experiencing some bugs.
Yeah, man, so I guess fresh off the gate, we were in the middle of the tutorial still, and once we got to the home base, it glitched out just entering the bar, or the cantina they call it in this case. So I've tried everything. I've tried resetting my computer, I've tried resetting the game, and nothing seems to work. But they do have the option with to send them a file that pops up after your game crashes to a certain email that they give you and yeah, so like that's kind of nice that you could tell that they're working on the game because it is clearly in early access. But, you know, nonetheless, let's kind of talk about what's actually different, because it's not just a rinse and repeat. I noticed a few things. They actually brought back some characters from the first one.
Yes.
Which I thought was...
Trish is back.
Yeah, Trish is back, which is pretty cool. So, you know, as a returning fan, that is pretty, you know, that adds some extra interest. The gameplay actually is different. So before you would enter a battle and say you went to an area, it would be like a 10 sequence area. You would do the battle and then it would go to like some sort of cutscene where you'd read something and then make a decision. Whereas now you actually just slowly pan and progress through the map entirely, or through the entire session. It's kind of cool, you know what I mean, Drew?
Yeah, absolutely. It went a little bit smoother this time. You can tell that this one is the second game around, but unfortunately, we had the biggest problem when we got to home base, and the fact that it just kept crashing our game, and we weren't able to keep going. Which I kind of had more interest this time. The first game didn't really connect with me. The second game, honestly, Dead Age is a style within its own.
Yeah.
I think right there. So if you're a fan of Dead Age 1, I would look forward to Dead Age 2. I would wait though right now until it's out of early access and more polished, and hopefully then you won't experience the bugs we're getting right now by crashing the game. But overall, like the minute I jumped in, I was like, ooh man, this is a lot prettier than last time as well.
Yeah.
Like graphically, it stood out to me. The characters still look average, I'm gonna say. Like they don't look like really all that polished. Some of the zombie movements are still kind of stiff and things like that. You know, there's other things I'd like to see. There are other zombie games out there, so there's a lot to draw from when you're a fan of the zombie genre. So when you're getting into this one, I think honestly it comes down to the fact that if you were a fan of Dead Age 1, then you're definitely going to gravitate with Dead Age 2 moving forward. But graphically, that's really where it kind of stood out for me and Sean the most. And then when you get into that gameplay, it felt very familiar, and I was really kind of hoping for a little bit of voice acting this time around, and there is none still.
Yeah, the voice acting would have been nice, but with the improvements in gameplay, it really actually, like, it's very thorough with the tutorial to start with. They make you do it with the first playthrough, which I think is a good idea, because even as a returning fan, they've changed enough. So even with the combat, let's start with, there's actually rows now. So there's like the front row, the melee row, and then the ranged row, instead of it just being two lanes that you attack back and forth from. So that already kind of adds some more, you know, diversity in the combat. and there are some more moves. Your actual weapons make a difference now. Like in the first one, if you had a shotgun and a rifle, it was just kind of whatever the damage was and the moves. But now they just get a little more in depth with the stats, which actually, again, once this game is a little more polished, we'll have to come back to it, you know, hopefully in maybe a month or a couple weeks. I imagine it won't take them long to fix the bug that we're experiencing, but
No.
you know, it'll be great to come back to it.
Absolutely. I definitely want to jump back into it. Our time with the game was unfortunately just really short, but even when we got to the home base, that has changed too.
Yeah.
This time we get this cut view of the house that we're in, and it has the room sectioned off, and that, like, man, I really wanted to kind of dive into that portion of it, and I just couldn't.
Yeah,
Where last time, like, weren't we just flipping through a book?
Yeah.
More or less, like, it was like a comic book page, and that's how you would get your mission structure and all that kind of would follow forward, and how you would then kind of customize your character and your loadout and all those features would be through this booklet, and you'd be flipping through it. But this time, now your home base is a lot different and a lot more pleasing to the eye, to be honest.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this XCOM 2 home base style where you're, you know, panned way out, and then you get to kind of cycle between the rooms and then perhaps upgrade them. We don't really know if you get to upgrade them because the game crashed once we got there. But nonetheless, if you're a returning fan, I'd say hop to it, but not quite yet. And then even if not, you know, this is a pretty cool turn-based RPG that might draw to you.
Yeah, I gotta be right there with you, Nate. I like where they're heading forward with the game, bringing Dead Age 2 to that next level. I think they're almost there. We just got a couple bugs we're experiencing right now that we will come back to later, hopefully once they polish that little issue that we're experiencing right now. But I can't recommend jumping in right away. I'd hold off right now for early access. Wait till I'd give it probably about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then maybe reconsider. We'll be jumping back in, so stick with us, and we'll kind of keep you updated on how everything's going.
Dead Age 2 is looking really good and has a lot of improvements from the first one, but unfortunately Drew and I were hindered by a couple technical issues, so hopefully moving forward we can play more.
The guys and I are getting ready to rumble in the latest beta of Worms Rumble. Let's check this out.
I just see Steve at the bottom.
Team route. Oh.
I don't know how to play. What am I doing?
We're in.
You grab a crate, shoot somebody. And you can actually come back in too. That's
I'm already dead.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I got smashed.
I'm still alive so far.
Oh. I spawned on the right side and got blasted.
Oh, zip line? How do you do zip
Oh,
line?
man.
Oh, sorry, cool. Nice. Yeah. The mobility in this game is
Get out of here,
pretty
Nate.
cool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Corey, get him. Respawn.
Oh, no, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm rolling out of there.
Oh, got you, Nate.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they've probably done a theme of just.
Man, come on.
Double
Where are you
kill.
going? Oh, no, I'm reloading.
Oh, no, I'm in trouble.
I'm going for him. Get out of here. Oh, he blasted.
I got killed.
There's Steve. I see Steve. You're green. Steve's green. I mean, I couldn't change my worm. I had to stay OG.
Spectating.
Oh, come on. You're dead, dude. You're so dead. I got him. Whoa, what did I get on? Oh, no.
It just showed me my
Come on.
Joe Exotic. Oh no.
Yeah, you guys gotta watch out.
Where are you guys?
Tiger King.
Oh, I got something over here.
Have you ever played with a tiger before?
Nice.
That guy's good.
No. Hey, he threw a banana at me. Whoa, man. He's throwing another one.
Oh, the banana bombs are so good.
Oh my god. Come on, dude. You're dead. Get out of here.
Nice try, Steve.
Oh no, I gotta heal. I gotta heal.
Yes, I'm alive.
No, exotic got me.
This is not my game yet, guys.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I am not at the top. That's some shit.
Come on, buddy. Come on.
Oh, who's that?
No,
Alan.
I
Infiltrated.
I almost had him. What's up, mailbox? Dude, it is a great time. We're having a blast.
This game's hilarious.
Oh man, it's a riot.
Wild.
I got
So
great.
smooth.
Burger.
Fast action smooth.
Oh, come here. I got a bazooka for somebody. Who wants this? Where you guys
Oh, I'm almost out. No.
Oh.
Man, I was
Come on, Nate.
so long.
Oh no, I blasted that. Where'd you run to? You're running away. You chicken.
I am dead last. I'm behind Steve. Oh, got a 3-point.
Oh no!
Killing it, Steve, man. I was getting kills my first 2 games.
Oh no,
What's
I'm out of
going on?
ammo.
Oh, Steve killed me. Oh man.
Get him, Steve!
The shotgun's vicious in this game, man. Holy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, I got nailed from somebody else, Nate. You didn't get me.
Oh, there's too much happening there.
Oh, it's chaos.
Oh no. I hit myself with a banana. Banana bomb. Oh, it's Corey. Oh.
Oh no.
Oh, I got it. They gave me the. Yeah, I take that.
Ah, I can't.
Oh.
Come here, Steve.
Oh, Nate. There's so many explosions going off down there.
Oh, I just about.
Woo. Oh, med kit. Let's go. Oh no, Scott, you're gonna
I gotcha.
Oh, I'm blasting. Oh, he stole my kill.
Virtual fishbowl, gotcha. Yeah, he got me.
Yeah. Dude, I hit you with
Wait, what
like
do you got
3 or
here?
4 of those shots.
Whoa.
in a row.
I know. But you
I've only
can't
got
do much
one
when you're
left.
in the air.
No, it's really hard to match
Oh,
it.
that
Too.
would have been an
Ooh.
awesome shot, Scott.
That was a good rocket, dude.
Oh, I think I just about killed myself. Grenade? Anything?
Just got him. I stole a kill from Joe Exotic. No, you got me.
Oh no.
Oh, the banana blew me up.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
banana.
Joe
Yeah,
got
baby.
me. Dude, that's fun.
It's a blast, man.
Where am I? I got 7. Okay,
Oh,
I
you
got
got
9.
the top in our team.
Hey, I'll take it.
Tied 7 kills with. Oh, you and Nate are like neck and neck.
That was close. Wow.
Nice.
That
Good
was
job, guys.
fun,
Nice
man.
shooting.
That was fun.
Yeah, that's a blast. That'll wrap up this week's episode. And don't forget to head to InsideTheGame.ca. We're there. You can join the Discord, our Facebook page, all the links over there, YouTube, and of course, the biggest part of it all, end off our show with your highlighted clip, just like DC Legends did, and a nice sniper shot in Overwatch. Nice shot, dude. Until next week, thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you inside the game.
Rendez-vous avec la mort. Essayons encore une fois.